And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, proud sponsor of the SARA Rail Conference 2025, powering progress, connecting economies. Good evening. Welcome to The Money Show. I'm Stephen Grootes, 7 minutes after 6 the time this Friday evening. We'll be looking at toffee. I don't know when you last had a toffee, and I remember making toffee as a kid. It can't be that difficult to make toffee. Keep wanting to say toffee. And yet, I think to make the country's best toffee is something very different. We'll be talking about that in about half an hour from now. Actually, quite looking forward to that conversation on Friday File. Before that, the situation at Ford looking quite serious. There are so many different transitions going on in the automobile industry at the moment, in the automotive sector, I should say. Ford saying that they will let people go in their offices, their operations in Swartland. So very, very bad news there. We'll talk about that on The Money Show in a couple of moments. Big movements in the toy sector. Toys R Us and Babies R Us are buying Toy Zone. There's something here about high-frequency malls, as they describe it, and Toys R Us saying it'll basically give them outlets in malls that have a lot more traffic. So more people going through, I presume, bigger malls, and what that then does to the number of sales that you get and the big advantages of that. So I think that could be quite an interesting conversation. Lots of conversations around whether or not the US could try and kick us out of the SWIFT network. The Trump administration's view on us. We'll speak about that in 10 minutes' time as well before we move on to toffees. And don't forget the Friday Biz Blitz as well. You know the number, 011 883 0702 021 446 0567 and 072 702 1702. I was thinking a little bit about the electricity issue, and you heard it again in the EWN bulletin. And what a difficult financial mess this is becoming, and it's not helped when people like NERSA actually get it wrong. And I was suddenly thinking, after all of the conversations we've had about why it is that NERSA makes mistakes, whether it is a mathematical mistake, I'm sure at some point someone is going to say to NERSA, was there, I don't know, political interference or something? I have no evidence on which to base that, no evidence that I can point to, but you've got to ask yourself, why do you keep making mistakes? And within that is a much bigger problem. The kind of jaws of the problem, if I can describe it like that, is, as I understand it, is basically this. Over the years, Eskom has not been getting enough money to actually make enough electricity, what you would call, I suppose, a cost-reflective tariff. But now it's had to invest more and more over the years, but it's still not been getting enough money over the years, which means the debt goes up. Now, when it tries to fix the problem and increase the pricing, and NERSA shouts and everybody shouts, but as it does that, people who can get out of Eskom, they make their own, they do this, they do that, they get soloed, they do whatever, the companies get out of it. I mean, if you consider Northam's electricity bill was 3 billion rand in the last financial year, the moment they can get out of Eskom, surely they will. And that just then shows you how the problem gets worse and worse and worse. And I cannot think of a solution. As Willenzi Mavavi told us last night, people are cooking over fires again rather than using electricity. We're going backwards, all because of the price. I don't know what the solution is. 011 883 0702 021 446 0567. Good evening. It's 10 minutes after 6.
702. Stephen is on The Money Show.
6 to 8 p.m.
Well, confirmation late yesterday, Ford is retrenching quite a significant part of its workforce from its operations in Tshwane. 470 jobs are going. Warren Tucker is someone who watches the car industry very, very closely. Warren, good evening. Ford says it's responding, I think the phrase they used was, to the evolution of market demands. I don't even know what that means. But it seems to me that clearly something is shifting and they have to respond.
Well, those of us with very long memories, good evening, Stephen, will tell you that once upon a time, the British motor industry ruled the roost. And it was this small upstart company called Toyota, another one called Datsun, followed by another one called Honda. And they came in and basically decimated the U.S. motor industry by building cheap, reliable little cars that would start every morning You go to work, come back, and you wouldn't be on the side of the road without overheating or electrical problems, all of those things. Fast forward, now we've got a situation where, you touched on it a couple of minutes ago, where electricity is so expensive in South Africa. We've gone from having some of the cheapest electricity in the world to having the most expensive electricity. It becomes very difficult for all these companies that are manufacturing to keep up and keep the cost down. In order for a country to manufacture and manufacture competitively, you need cheap electricity, you need a good logistics system to get minerals to and from port, and you need cheap steel to manufacture these vehicles. And unfortunately, we've kind of priced ourselves out of the market.
It keeps going back to the same thing. Someone somewhere is going to blame US tariffs for Ford's decision, but actually, it's us.
No, the chickens have come home to roost. Let's call a spade a spade. We've got a government that's not interested in sorting out or helping the industries grow here. You've got a situation where we've let everything fall apart so bad that now, like I said, electricity is so expensive. Think about this. When we had load shedding, all the factories in Uitenhage, PE had to go out, buy generators, use diesel to generate power. I mean, that all comes at a cost. So those costs need to get passed on somewhere. They can't just be absorbed by the company forever. And all those small things have a knock-on effect, and eventually we end up with the problem we have now, where companies are saying, listen, there's cheaper markets for us to produce our vehicles. There's markets with cheaper electricity. They don't have all these logistical issues. So you know what? We're going to move that way. The alarm should have gone off when BMW took the 3 Series BMW, which is their bread and butter, right? They sell 3 Series all over the world. When they took that away from us and said, no, okay, we'll take the 3 Series to America, you guys produce the X3. Then the alarm should have gone off then and there already.
Are we going to see more of this, Warren? I mean, we don't really know what's going to happen. There's so many different transitions underway in this industry at the moment. I mean, on one level, Tata are coming back. More Chinese models are coming into South Africa. I realize that Ford specifically are really in the kind of bakkie and SUV market nowadays. But I can't help but wonder if this is just the beginning.
Well, I think you're right. Look, at the end of the day, there's a lot of models that we stopped getting in this country. Okay, South Africa used to be that country where manufacturers made special cars just for us. That's how hungry our market was for vehicles. They don't do that anymore. They sell into our market what they think will sell, and that's that. I'll give you an idea. I'll use the motorbike example for you. I always ask the guys at Kawasaki, I said, but how come we don't get these specific models and you're only bringing this range? And the guy basically said to me, well, what South Africa buys in a year, they sell in the US in a month.
Sure.
So our market's just not important to them.
Warren Tucker, thank you so much. As you can tell, someone who watches the motor industry very, very closely. It's just gone 6:15.
The Money Show on 702.
Monday to Friday, 6 to 8 p.m.
Well, confirmation this week that the deal between Toys R Us and Babies R Us has now been able to buy the 13 outlets of Toy Zone. They're based in Gauteng and Durban particularly. Dr. Pumla Mganga is the chair of Toys R Us and Babies R Us. Pumla, good evening and thank you for your time on The Money Show. I do appreciate it. What's the reasoning behind the deal? Why do you believe it's good for you to buy these 13 branches of Toy Zone?
Good evening, Stephen, and thank you for the opportunity to share how excited we are with this landmark acquisition. Essentially, if you look at where our current business footprint is, it is mainly in the main regional and the national malls in South Africa. The acquisition of Toy Zone was really intended to extend a geographic footprint into mainly the strip malls in the first instance, because the strip malls offer convenience, they offer more choice, and they offer ease of access for our target customer. And this is something that we feel is important in this particular market segment. And so the broadening of our footprint into the strip mall was a major consideration. The second consideration was the infusion of the baby offering So Toys On is a pure toy play, and our intention is to obviously infuse the baby offering to our target customers. In that way, the target customer, which is the parent in most instances, but it's actually everybody. It's the parent, the grandparent, the mom, the child. It's almost every age category has that convenience. So our intention is to infuse the baby into the offering so that the customer has got that broad choice. So they can go to the mall. Alternatively, they can go to the strip mall to purchase our offering.
I have to tell you, Pumla, the number of times in my life I've had to rush around with one or both of my children and stop at a toy store to get something for another child, for a party or something. It's all about parking. So I hear you on the strip malls. They do make it easier.
Absolutely. That is so exciting to hear because, think about it this way. Let's say you're coming to buy a pram or you're coming to buy a car seat. Parking is major, and that's what strip malls give us. Yeah. So I'm so excited to hear that. Obviously, you have that direct experience because that's precisely what the strategic intent was.
Are you going to change the products on offer? I presume you'll rebrand and everything will be Toy Zone. The Toy Zone brand, I presume, will disappear. But are you going to be selling exactly the same products? Are you going to make major changes apart from bringing in the baby side of things?
Well, I think we already thought that Toys On was a good offering. So the idea is simply to infuse the baby. And also, obviously, some of the lines that are distinctly ours. And so we will infuse those into the product range.
Okay. How is the toy market generally? Now, there's certain things about babies and children that you're always going to do. You are always going to buy nappies if there is a baby around. You are always going to buy, I can't tell you how many millions of baby wipes you're going to buy, but you're going to buy them. You're going to say you won't, but you will. You're also going to buy very cheap things, the sort of 5 Rand, 20 Rand kind of piece of plastic for a stocking or something over Christmas or whatever it is. But the more expensive toys, do people still have money for them when you consider how tough things are right now?
The reason why we are embarking on this strong growth strategy is because we believe that this market is very buoyant. And interestingly enough, what we found is that in South Africa, whether you're a parent in Sandton or you're a parent in Hlabialingana in KZN, you have aspirations for your child. You want to buy the best for your child, whether you're a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle or even a direct parent. And so for us, it's a very buoyant market. It's growing. The growth numbers are very positive. So we wouldn't be investing in this growth strategy if we didn't believe in the future of this market. We believe that it's positive both in Africa and internationally. And I think that what we are offering here is the opportunity now for our customers to have more optionality, more convenience, and more range and more depth. We're very optimistic about the market segment.
Thank you very much indeed. Dr. Pumla Mganga is the chair of Toys R Us and Babies R Us. 20 minutes now after 6.
The Money Show Explainer.
I'm sure you've seen quite a bit of commentary, and some of the commentary has been very concerned, suggesting that South Africa could lose access to the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. You might be asking yourself, what is the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication? If you look on your bank card, if you still have one, and it's not just on your phone, you'll know it as the SWIFT system. And the main reason we've had all of this concern is because of the issues around our relationship with the US. Well, today, the National Treasury saying, this was on Fin24, that they see virtually no chance we could be kicked out of SWIFT. Frederick Mitchell is the chief economist at Aluma Capital. Frederick, good evening. The SWIFT system, who gets to decide who's in it and who isn't? Because they were pretty quick to kick the Russians out when it suited them.
Good evening to all the listeners. Mostly it's the US who call the shots, so to say, in who's on the system and who's not. And it's been administered in Brussels, in Europe, and in the US. So it's basically international banking system, and our transactions are cleared internationally, and our funds are flowing between countries and makes it easier to do international trade and in investments.
I mean, with Russia, the US and the EU pretty much agree that they were against Russia. It's a bit more complicated with us anyway, isn't it?
Kind of, because we had some great relationship with the Europeans, and we have some new deals with them, trade deals, and it's a relationship with the US that's coming under pressure. But we know if the US does have a problem with the country, they tend to pressure the European allies to follow suit. So that's giving us kind of a headache at this stage.
Do you think the National Treasury is right when they say they see virtually no chance that we could be kicked out? I mean, I must say, to pick on one country and to throw them out of SWIFT just kind of out of spite, because we haven't really done anything, I mean, would be astonishing.
Well, it's difficult to say if it's just out of spite. We must go and look at South Africa's actions, say collectively, internationally, and how we've aligned with, let's say, U.S. interests over the last, say, 15 to 20 years. And we know what the trend has been. And the U.S. has not been taking kind to it, even under the Biden administration. And we know the Trump administration is very proactive in terms of getting the America First agenda across to the public. And if South Africa does cross the line, which they feel, they will act with severe punishment to countries that doesn't play ball according to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a big debate to have around all of this. I presume if it happened, so this would be the worst case scenario, if we were kicked out of SWIFT, it would have a big impact on us, where we don't have the same financial resilience as Russia.
The thing with Russia is we look at a country that, let's say, has got huge oil and gas reserves that the Europeans are dependent on, and they struggle to decouple from that. And coupled with that is the notion that we know Russia is a nuclear superpower. To that extent, it gives us an idea that Russia does have some aces up the sleeves to play along with the West and how they can handle them. But for South Africa, we're a small open economy, and we don't have let's say, a loaded gun in terms of, let's say, oil and gas to the West side. And that's putting us quite in a bit of a different position than, let's say, the Russians. It's two incomparable situations, to be honest.
Look, I mean, we have gold and platinum, I suppose, but it's not quite the same thing. It's also harder to get it out the ground for us at the moment. I presume quite a lot of functionality that we've become used to would simply just stop working.
Yeah, that's a big problem. It's not only the international trade in terms of goods and services, or let's say goods being imported and exported. It's also our investments and also our debt. We've got a small percentage that's like denominated in US or foreign currencies, but mostly our debt is in let's say rand. But if you lose access to the SWIFT and they push for sanctions, it means that let's say foreign countries, especially European and, let's say, US investors for that matter, can't invest in South African bonds. So that bonds will then have to be taken up by the local institutions, which will put financial strain and risk within the South African market. And that's something that we can't really afford at this stage.
Frederick Mitchell, thanks very much indeed. Chief Economist at Illuma Capital. Well, you heard his view. The National Treasury believes there's virtually no chance of it happening. I mean, my own view, and it's maybe not particularly informed, but if this is what the US is going to do to us, I presume they're going to do it to every country that they don't like. And it's not like we've declared war on an ally or anything like that. So in a way, it would be quite extreme. But who knows? We are, as you know, in very strange times. I know you have a view on that on 011 883 0702 and 021 446 0567.
The Money Show.
The Markets.
Viv Govender is the portfolio manager at Rand Swiss. Viv, good evening. We should probably start with Northern Platinum. They had their results out today, and despite a slightly higher, well, quite a significantly higher platinum price over the period, are still not able to make as much money as they need.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is obviously a situation in which these companies are in a situation where they're looking a lot stronger than they were just a little while ago. I mean, the platinum prices recovered quite nicely, and you would expect, in that scenario that these companies would be seeing some, improvements coming through. They are obviously, it's helping them out a bit, but unfortunately, Northern is posting, like you said, a profit drop because of higher costs, and that is, I think, it's quite disappointing. I mean, they had a high price, they had record sales volumes, but yet we are seeing, costs basically jumping up 8.1%, which is obviously above even inflation in South Africa at the moment.
Yeah, and a big part of that was electricity. So yesterday, Nico Muller, who's as you know, is the CEO at Implat, he told us on the Money Show he was quite optimistic about the platinum price. I think the phrase they used was they see it as being supportive for the next 18 months. Paul Dunn at Northern Platinum, not nearly so confident over the shorter term. He is over the longer term. But over the shorter term, he doesn't necessarily see a higher platinum price.
Yeah, look, I think it's a difficult thing to look at, because for the longest time, platinum has been driven by this demand by the catalytic converters, basically a way to clean the engines of petrol and diesel vehicles, platinum metals as a whole. Unfortunately, with EVs coming into place, that's going to be diminishing over the long term. Unfortunately for platinum makers, but probably good for the world, because it probably means it's a healthier environment out there with less pollution. So they have to find other alternatives to this thing. Also, we have increased recycling. We have efficiencies in from the catalytic converters. This was an industry that was not going to be supportive of the platinum price indefinitely to the future. That being said, platinum is an alternative to gold. The gold price, as you all know, has gone up quite strongly over the last little while. And so I do think that if we do see gold prices continuing to rise, I would expect platinum prices in a certain way to at least follow that, at least partially, just because of the substitution effects of things like jewelry, etc.
In the U.S., Lisa Cook, the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank governor, the U.S. President Donald Trump says he's fired her. She's obviously gone to court to say no. At issue, it's quite a strange thing in the U.S., but if you have two properties and when you get the mortgage, if you put on one of them that this is your primary residence, you get a slightly better deal than if you say it's an investment property. As I understand the claim against her, there are two properties that she bought pretty close together. This was before she became a public official, and she put primary residence on both of them. I think there's something like 13 cases that have ever been prosecuted, or in the last year or something. It's incredibly rare to get a prosecution. What is really playing out here?
Look, to Steelman the case, you'd say the following. Firstly, Donald Trump was accused of a similar crime, obviously for commercial reasons as opposed to private reasons. But he basically also gave what is termed to be incorrect information to lenders around loans, for his buildings. And what happens in this scenario is that the idea is that the bank is effectively giving you a price, and by lying to the bank, you are stealing money from the bank, you're defrauding the bank. Because the bank had it known the full information that he wanted to know, would get a bit of more money from you because of the high interest rate, and that's obviously income for the bank. And the other part of it would be that, despite the fact that this happened before she was a public official, one of the strongest features of a central bank is its reputation and integrity. There's a reason that they say these banks are basically independent and so on, is because a lot of the strength of, for instance, the South African Reserve Bank is our belief that Letseka Kanyako is a very honourable, strong leader, and that he will stand up to political pressure and that kind of stuff, and is not going to be corrupted and whatnot. And that obviously feeds into this same idea. On the other hand, like you said, it's a very, very, it's like basically accusing somebody of a crime, of jaywalking, and then saying you lose your job because of that. It's a very, not quite as bad as that, but it is a pretty long stretch. But what I think the more important fact is that the reason this comes up is I think that the Trump administration wants to remove these governors, these members of the Federal Reserve, who are basically likely to go against his wishes, which is to basically decrease interest rates. And if he's doing it to one, he's probably had people searching for every one of these guys that is against him. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do dig up something, because, as the Soviets used to say, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. Very few people are able to get by without absolutely, a spotless record in their history.
Sure. And I mean, he has control of the tax the tax authority. I mean, there are all sorts of things that could come out.
Oh, yeah, most certainly. I mean, the presidency is incredibly powerful. Remember, he appoints people like the head of the FBI. The FBI can find a lot of stuff out if they wanted to. He has obviously control in terms of taxes, but, just the law enforcement bodies. I mean, the Department of Justice can go after you for a number of different things. And like I said, I mean, if you look at any one of us, if somebody was to follow us for a month, we all find ourselves doing something, be it littering, be it like, it's not coming to a complete stop on a stop street. There'll always be something that you can find if you really, really look hard.
We're all looking at our phones while we're driving. Governor, thanks very much indeed. Portfolio Manager at Rand Swiss, just after 6:30.
The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
On the next Money Show, the chief executives of Bidvest, the country's largest employer, the short-term insurer Santam, and the maker of Bobtail, Yum Yum Peanut Butter, and five-star maize meal, RCL Foods. They'll take you through their company's results. We'll discuss the business of farming worms and bugs with Swartland Maduna, co-founder of S&P Organic Products. Also, analysis of all the top business news of the day.
The Money Show.
The Friday File.
The Friday File.
Well, I don't know if you've ever bitten to something or smelt something and you're suddenly taken back to a moment in your childhood. Maybe it's a toffee apple or a particular type of chewing gum or something. But I often think if someone can harness that, if they can give you something better than anyone else can give it that maybe takes you back a little bit, well, they're going to print a fortune. Someone who's done that pretty well is Swartland Kitchen. They make toffees and rusks and granola. I suppose you'd call it good old-fashioned natural stuff. Frits van Ryneveld is a co-founder of Swartland Kitchen. Frits, good evening. I read somewhere that your business pretty much started with toffee. Now, you have a very different background. How did you get into the toffee business?
Good evening. Indeed, it did start with toffee. It started in Darling Sweet started in 2014 when Henty and myself lived in Darling and decided we're going to launch a toffee brand and sell it from Darling, as Darling gets a lot of tourists and there was nothing sweet to take home. And what is sweeter than taking a real traditional, old-fashioned, handcrafted toffee home to your loved ones or to yourself?
There's something about toffee because a lot of people give chocolate, and I mean there's so much sort of chocolate in the world, or there used to be until the price got too expensive. Toffee, though, I presume it keeps better. I imagine it's actually better for you. It's also rarer. So does all of that make it a good gift?
I think so. I think toffee is robust, so it can travel. But it is something that needs, our range is very handcrafted. It's really made the old-fashioned way like your Oma would have made it, with top ingredients. So I do think it is a fantastic present, and it lasts longer in your mouth as well.
I imagine it's pretty easy to make an ordinary toffee, and when I was at primary school, I made a very ordinary toffee, Frits. But you produce extraordinary toffee. What makes it better? I mean, is it the quality of the ingredients? Is there skill? I don't know. Do you have a special Eskom rate or something?
I wish. Now, the big secret, I would say, is the best ingredients. There's no shortcuts. If you want to produce a good product, the best ingredients available. And then to figure out Henty is he designs the toffees and the recipes, and it mustn't just be sweet. It must be exciting. It must have a different flavor profile. So yes. But I would say the best is ingredients and the handcraftedness.
So, I mean, I know that there's a lot of sugar in toffee, but what else goes into it?
Well, sugar goes into it, butter goes into it, and condensed milk goes into it. And then the flavorings, like we've got a bird's eye chili, toffee or whatever, that we add the real thing. We don't add something that tastes like bird's eye chili. We add the real McCoy.
You also make rusks, and I have to say there are moments in my life when I would consider myself a connoisseur of rusks. You know, something of an expert. I mean, I'm not being entirely serious, but if I like to go camping with friends and family and all the rest, nothing better than waking up, coming out of the tent, having a good old-fashioned yawn, spending an hour making coffee, and then sitting down with the rusk. Now, again, there are plenty of ways to make very ordinary rusks. I imagine with your rusks, it's the same thing, the quality of the ingredient.
Yes, the quality of the ingredients of Swartland Kitchen rusks and cookies, that's so important. And also baking it the real traditional way as it was 100 years ago. Maybe we've got electricity now. 100 years ago we also probably had. But baking it the real way and making it by hand, I think also taking no shortcuts, producing a top quality product does give you a product with top flavors.
do you put more ingredients in? So, I mean, with a rusk, you could put in a sultana or a raisin or something, I suppose, if you wanted. I mean, does that make it... and you can also... There's quite a wide range of flavors. You can go from ginger to sort of plain to buttermilk to whatever. That must give you quite a lot of scope.
Yes, I think the opportunities for ingredients in rusks is endless. South Africans do tend to like traditional flavors like buttermilk and the normal breakfast rusk, but adding, we recently launched a sunflower and sesame rusk, which is going down extremely well, and that flavor of the sesame just makes it amazing.
I mean, is rusks and toffee, are there things where you can, come up with new recipes forever? I mean, you can keep changing your range and, have a season of this or a season of that. I mean, is there that much scope for it?
I think the confectionery market in South Africa is huge, and I think there's a lot of scope. There's a lot of scope for a handcrafted product that people understand the love and the time that goes into it, and the same with rusks. Our rusks are baked at Evita Separon in Darling, which also gives it a geographical point. I'm going to tell you a top secret, something that you may please not tell anybody. But the name of Swartland Kitchen we're going to change to Evita Separon next year, as it is baked in this iconic place of South African history. And rusks are something that all South Africans have in common. That's one thing all South Africans know. So, yes. So, Evita Separon rusks are coming soon, but currently it's still Swartland Kitchen as it's baked in the Swartland.
I was going to ask you about the location of Darling. I mean, I've been past it and done what everybody does: stand with my wife next to the sign that says "Darling, take a picture," and go back to Cape Town. And that was just because time. There was a plane or something. But is there something about the town that enabled you to do this? You made the point a lot of tourists go through it. They're kind of wanting to spend money. They're in the mood. They're looking for things like the things you sell. But I don't know if I suppose what I'm asking is, do you think your business would have worked somewhere else? I don't really know if it would have.
Look, I think it's all in the name, or a lot of it is in the name. Darling is such a wonderful name to use in one's business. But Darling's position is fantastic, as it's 80 kilometers north of Cape Town en route to the west coast. So it gets a lot of traffic passing by. And, we've got flower season now, and the flowers are absolutely beautiful. So a lot of tourists are coming into Darling to visit Darling and to see what Darling has got to offer. And we are very grateful to have Swartland Kitchen currently at Evita Separon, and then Darling Suite and the tasting rooms, and people come and visit and they can see our products and where it's made. So I do think our town has had a huge part in the success of Darling Suite as well as Swartland Kitchen.
Are you able to use your businesses there to sort of help the community? There's a lot of unemployment in most parts of the country. I mean, are you able to use it, to leverage it in that way as well?
One of our main aims is job creation. When Henty and I started the business in 2014, we said one of our main aims is job creation. That's why we make a handcrafted product, and we truly started with one full-time and one half-day staff member, and we're proud to say we've got 33 staff members currently from all walks of life, and we're incredibly proud of our team as they develop and as we grow together and work as a team. So I think job creation is something that we're very much part of for the community.
I mean, that's a lot of rusks and toffees that you're selling to employ 33 people.
I'm telling you. I guess it is. But we do go a bit further afield than Darling. So we've got an online store, and we also supply to independent stores and some smaller retailers and gifting stores.
Yes, no, I'm sure. Do you see much scope for a kind of international audience? I mean, you're a company making something in a small place with a wonderful name. I mean, do you sort of get into the sort of e-commerce market, maybe get some inquiries from, I don't know, the UK? I'd say the US, but then you have to send it to the postal system, and no one wants to send things to the US anymore because it's very complicated and messy. But I mean, are you looking at that international market?
Yes, we are. Exports isn't as easy, and up until COVID, we were quite busy with exports. But after COVID, we still do export. Africa is a wonderful place, and there's a lot of money, there's a lot of potential in South Africa, and in Africa, I mean, but also Australia, New Zealand, the Americas. So there is scope. But it is a different ball game. You need to focus on export.
Frits, it was great to talk to you, and thank you very much. And can I ask you a personal favor? If you'll just say hello to Tannie Evita for me, please.
I will do that. I'm seeing her tomorrow. She's on stage at 12 o'clock. I will send her your love.
Please, I haven't spoken to her for a long time. Frits, I really do appreciate it. Frits van Ryneveld is the co-founder of what is still, for now, called the Swartland Kitchen. But of course, in a Money Show exclusive, we heard it's changing its name.
702.
702.
Stephen is on the Money Show.
6 to 8 p.m.
All right, 011 883 0702 021 446 0567. Time now for the Friday Biz Blitz. There are plenty of questions to come. You know how it works. We ask you a question. If you get it right, we move on to the next question. If you get it wrong, we move on to the next caller. First question on the Friday Biz Blitz tonight. Lisa Cook is the governor of which bank? Lisa Cook is the governor of which bank? 011 883 0702 021 446 0567.
The Money Show, Friday Biz Blitz.
First question on the Friday Biz Blitz tonight. Lisa Cook is the governor of which bank? 011 883 0702 021 446 0567. Of which bank is Lisa Cook the governor? Questions 2 around Swifties and question around First Rand and something about the toy industry. We heard earlier about the toy industry. It's really all about parking and actually getting into strip malls very, very quickly. You don't want to go, if you have to go and get a toy, you don't want to have to go and get parking and a ticket and a this and a that and go up 3 floors and take your child past other stores. You just want to get the one thing. So we'll ask a question about that. But first, the first question is Lisa Cook is the governor of which bank? And that is the first question tonight on the Friday Biz Blitz. And of course, it is someone who, as you know, has been in the news for all sorts of reasons. And in fact, Viv Govender was talking about it a little earlier. Here's a pretty dark prediction about what is going to happen around sort of Lisa Cook and how things are going to play out with that particular bank. You know which bank, I'm sure you know which bank it is. But the first question is, Lisa Cook is the governor of which bank? And you know the number, 011 883 0702 and 021 446 0567. Questions also to come about the IDC, the Industrial Development Company, and then the very strange things that have been happening in the United States around a particular company, which I thought was very interesting. But our first question is, Lisa Cook is the governor of which bank? On 011 883 0702 and 021 446 0567. And of course, that is the first question that we have tonight on the Friday Biz Blitz. There are plenty of questions to come. Don't forget, Best Bits will be starting for you in a couple of moments as well after the news. And there'll be plenty more, of course, to come. So, yeah, I don't know if you are... maybe we should move to the second question. What do you call a group of people? When you call a group of people Swifties, which pop star are they a fan of? Surely you have a teenager in your life. If you're a Swiftie, who do you follow? Who's the pop star that you follow? 011 883 0702 and 021 446 0567. It's you at the Money Show. It's Friday. Good evening. It's 7 o'clock.